Okay, so I'm going to do a talk here just about your playing technique. If you want to play fast, which was always a thing as far as I was concerned, check out this Troy Grady channel. It will reveal a lot of secrets of playing fast. Cracking the Code is a series that he made about how he learned how to play fast. And then I thought another interesting video here was when Marty Friedman sat down with Lisa X from Japan, and they talked about picking. Lisa X, when she does a speed run, here it is, The Power of Prodigy. Lisa X, Marty Friedman, and The Power of Prodigy, 4 months ago. Today. Well, I don't know if it's today, but anyway, it says 4 months ago today. Today, it says 4 months ago. So, Marty is talking with this Lisa X, and when she does a speed run, it's alternate picking. And when Marty does the same thing, it's called what I would call economy picking, where it's not all up, down, up, down, up, down. It could be like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, not up, down, down, but up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, up. No, anyway, I don't think there will be a down, down, and an up, up in a row, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. Economy picking basically moving the shortest distance between two notes instead of doing a strict up, down, up, down. Now, I think somebody like Paul Gilbert can do alternate picking. When he's not sweep picking, he can do alternate picking pretty much with everything he does. But that he's got perfect technique. Lisa X does that too. Her technique is getting there, but it's quite advanced for a 12-year-old. It's beyond where most players ever get, as far as I can see. Certainly beyond where I've gotten. Anyway, the thing is, you don't need to listen to anybody when they tell you how to pick. Just listen to your own body and what he wants to do. And another thing is mixing picking with hammer-ons and pull-offs to get your speed. Like I think some of the Warren DeMartini stuff from the 80s is not just strict picking. One other thing is some of the Ingve stuff. This Troy Grady was going across the fretboard on some of this stuff. So I can't even do that. So I'm not very good at that, right? I always mess up on the going between the B and the G because of that. I've mentioned that before. There's only 2 notes on the G string in your typical diatonic scale. Okay, well, Troy was doing it across like that, you know, the classic. But a lot faster, right? Then he discovered in an Ingve instructional video that a lot of that was really up and down on 1 or 2 strings. It was lengthwise. I guess, I don't know if you call it vertical or what, instead of across, you know. So that was sort of an interesting discovery. But the bigger discovery he eventually made was that a lot of the speed runs were not strict alternate picking, and he talked about alternate picking in his Cracking the Code, and if I'm remembering right, he said that it just felt awkward. And I can tell you that does feel awkward, but you know, I've been kind of in that rut for so long that I don't know if my technique can be saved, at least with the amount of effort I'm putting in. I think, you know, I'm 30 years down the line, or 35 years down the line, 40 years down the line. I'm finding that it's harder to practice and, you know, actually see progress at this point. So it could be that somebody like me is more or less has the riffs that they have. But it's not about me, this is about you. My just encouraging you that if you're starting out, or say you've been playing 5 years or whatever, you're still in your teens or your 20s, to listen to what your body wants to do and develop your own technique. Because, well, my theory about Yngwie is that he didn't really sit there and scientifically work out all the stuff as the way Troy Grady did when he studied Yngwie, but that Yngwie pretty much did what his hands wanted to do and then just got faster and faster at it. And if it wasn't alternate picking, then so be it. It was getting the job done. And Yngwie was, you know, you gotta, whatever else you want to say about him, the stuff that he does do, it is, or at least in the past, I don't know, maybe he's fallen off a little bit recently when he's been touring, but back in the 80s, he was very fast and very clear, and there's no denying that. You know, getting a lot of clarity with all those rapidly occurring notes. And I'm just saying that if you want to do that, it doesn't necessarily have to be alternate picking. There's a lot of ways to skin that kitty, so to speak. So, you know, kind of pay attention to what your body wants to do. You could also learn, when you're learning other people's riffs, you might not play it the same way, but you might play it at the same tempo with all the same notes, but you might not be doing the same technique. But I would encourage you to move beyond that. I mean, obviously there's something to be said for learning other people's playing, which is something I never paid attention to really. I wanted to jam. I learned a few things along the way, but you know, there are a lot of players that know a lot of people's stuff. And your biggest professionals probably, they have a big repertoire. Is that the right way to pronounce that word? They have a big catalog of stuff that they can pull from. But I think another emphasis can be made on finding your stuff that you do, and that might be the way you really break out as a player, is when you play your stuff. Like for me, I love, for example, I love Phil X. All the covers he can do, how he can sing and play. But really, I'm probably going to remember Phil X from something like Flipping Out more than anything, which was his. You know, it has his signature really all over it. Whereas when he's doing covers, as great as they are, and as much as I like to watch those and listen to them, they're derivative, right? As if that makes any sense. That's one of the examples I can think of. You know, it could be the same for a guy like Paul Gilbert. I'm going to remember the stuff he invented over when he might do a cover here and there. Now there's kind of a fusion you can make where you put your own riffs in a cover, or you mix older riffs with riffs you've made up. There's all kinds of permutations, but the basic thing I'm saying is, you know, develop some of your own riffs as much as you might study other people, and don't worry about what anybody else is telling you technique-wise. Pay more attention to what your hands are telling you. Because I went down the strict alternate picking for a lot of stuff for years, and only recently did I watch the Cracking the Code, and then I see that even a guy like Yngwie, he was doing economy picking on a lot of his runs. And it makes me wonder, because I started out as an economy picker, and then they corrected me. and said, you know, Al Di Meola says you got to do alternate picking. And I thought, well, who am I to argue with Al Di Meola? And that was all I did from then on. And it makes me wonder, you know, what would have happened if I had just listened more to myself and just kept going down the road I was on, because I was doing some pretty nifty riffs, and this was within 6 or 8 months of starting out. And I had that same feeling with a lot of my practice, that it was just sort of awkward, this strict alternate picking. It just didn't have the correct pulse or whatever. And there are people, okay, none of that is a pick, I just am having extreme allergy attacks. There are people commenting, especially when you get into Cracking the Code episode 9, and saying, you know, yeah, I started doing some of this economy picking stuff, so to speak, and I've noticed an increase in speed already. So keep an eye out for that. I'm just saying, I'm being really long-winded here. I'm just saying, you know, pay attention to your hands and develop your technique. I mean, it's one thing to admire a lot of these guys, some of these strict alternate pickers, but that's not the only way that it can be done. Okay.